If you constantly beat yourself up, this is for you. This is something I've been struggling with for a long time, and it still comes up a couple of times to be fair with you. But a couple of years ago, this has been intense. And what I figured out is that it's not serving me and neither you or anyone at all. It's good to be hard with yourself sometimes, to be real with yourself, to look into the mirror and call yourself out when you're bullshitting yourself, when you're not honest with yourself, when you're not moving in integrity. But at the same time, when you beat yourself up because you didn't do something, or you fail to do something at some point, or you fall out of your routine, or you just didn't do things the way you expected yourself to do them, or you didn't meet your own expectations. If you beat yourself up in these moments, you're just making the situation worse. You're just weakening yourself, because when you beat yourself up, you're not in an empowered state. So no matter what you're going through, no matter what you have failed to do, remind yourself that you can restart in any moment. You can reset the whole process in any moment. You can start again right now. And you don't even have to wait for the next week to come, or for the next month, or for the next year, because that's something that I've been incorporated. Like, that's a thought process I had in my mind when I failed. I was like, man, you fall out of, for example, when I went running, when I went for regular runs and then stopped doing it, I started beating myself up, and then I was like, man, like, I'm out of the flow, and let me start again next week, because it's Thursday and now the whole week is just screwed. But instead of thinking like that, you could start on the next day again, or you could still go for that run on the same day. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to wait for the next week to happen. You don't have to wait for the next month or the next year to get started again, or to get into your rhythm again. But sometimes you will have phases and seasons where it's just harder to get back into the flow, to get back into the motion, to get back to the things that are serving you. And that's the natural process. And especially if you try to start something new, if you try to incorporate a new habit, if you try to just do something you haven't done before, it's a process. And you have to honor yourself for going through the process and for stepping on the path, but because not a lot of people are doing that. And it's not even about you comparing yourself to other people, it's about you honoring your journey. And when you beat yourself up, you're just making things way harder than they need to be. But if you instead come back to your center and just honor yourself for, let's say, let's go back for the example of running. Let's say you want to run and make it a habit, and they say, I think it's 66 days to install a new habit, and you set yourself out for the goal to run for 66 days. The first time around you do it for 10 days, and then all of a sudden you have this day where you don't feel like it and you just fall out of it, and then you feel bad because you're not doing it, and then you struggle to get back into it again. And still, you had 10 days where you did it consistently. That means you can do 10 days again, and you can even do more than that. But most likely, it might take you a little time to get back into it again. The next time, then you find the courage again, the energy, the inspiration again to step back onto it, to just make it happen this time. And you're like convinced that you're gonna make it happen this time. But then you get to day 22, and all of a sudden some other thing in your life happens that just gets you emotionally whacked, and you're like not feeling like it at all. And then you even feel worse because you felt like, oh, I went up, and then you went down again. And eventually on the third try, you're gonna get to day 66. But maybe it's even gonna take you 4 or 5 times. But what matters is that you keep going. And every time you restart and every time you start again, you get stronger. Even if you restart and don't get to the same level that you've been at before. Let's say the first time you did 10 days, the second time you did 7 days. What matters is that you still show up and that you do it. And to even make it simpler, to break things down in a more simple way, is to just break it down to the most tiny thing that you can imagine. If you want to go running, instead of saying, especially if you're not in the flow, instead of saying I'm going for a 1 hour run, go for a 3 minute run. 3 minutes is easy, and you don't even, instead of saying, okay, I have to run at this certain pace, let me just jog as much as easy and as comfortably as I can. Of course, it's about embracing discomfort, but it's about getting into the rhythm. And when you do 3 minutes, most of the time you want to do more than that. And same with everything else. If you want to start something new, especially things that you haven't done before, break them down to the most simplest and tiniest thing that you can do right now. Because the big things often paralyze you. You know, they paralyze us because they feel so distant, they feel so far away, they feel like we can't attain them, we can't achieve them, like we're not capable of doing them, but we are. What we have to do is we have to focus on where we are right now. You have to focus on what you can do right now, the next step that you can take right now. And then on some days you feel more inspiration, more energy, you can get more done. But if you are low energy and still can take that one step, you're still moving forward and you're still getting closer to where you want to be if you have this big goal. Or you just do things for the excitement of it. You just do things in the moment where you feel the inspiration without any outcome. Those are the best, most of the times, the best things, and you get the best results simply by following your excitement. But if you have this big goal, if you have this version of yourself, if you feel this version of yourself inside of you, and you feel overwhelmed with it, or your brain or your overthinking mind kicks in and it's like, oh, how am I supposed to do this? I don't know if I'm ever gonna get there. Just break it down and focus on what you can do right now, because doing something is better than doing nothing, especially when it comes to your goals, to your dreams, to your intentions. Sometimes it's good to just sit and do nothing, but not when it comes to the things that you wanna incorporate into your life. Not when it comes to the actions you want to take, you know, because it's an action that you have to take. So you have to do something. So instead of beating yourself up, honor yourself for being on the process. So next time when you fail or when you fall out of it, acknowledge yourself. Become aware of the path that you've been walking already, the steps you've been taking already, and just take a moment to review what you have accomplished and what you have done. Either you speak it out loud, you write it down in a journal, or just look. What I love to do is to look into the mirror, look into my eyes, and just really honor the person that's in front of me. In good times and bad times, but especially in the bad times, that's very powerful. To just look into your eyes and say, hey, remind yourself, you've been doing this for 10 days. You changed something. Okay, you stepped on the path. You didn't settle for mediocrity anymore. You stepped out of your comfort zone and you started doing it. Now you had a day where you fell out, but so what? Let's get back to it step by step again. And then you get back on the journey. You get back on the path. But don't beat yourself up all the time. Get a little hard with yourself if you're too comfortable, if you're too lazy. Because that's the opposite, you know, like sometimes you drift into a rut or you drift into a hole where you're just excusing yourself the whole time. But if you're on the path, honor yourself for being on the path and remind yourself that you can step back on the path at any given moment when you decide to do so. So with that being said, honor yourself, honor your path, move from empowerment, and don't beat yourself up all the time. I'm Law Haru. This is The Way of Law, and I thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. One love.